would go
having
nuts.
a GM on, I want to ask, like, how does one grow up and want to be a GM? Like, I want to say, who's the GM we had on?
Howie.
No, not Howie. For the Rand Carthon with the Titans.
Yeah.
And he talked about, like, he was obsessed with magazines as he was growing up. Like, when did you know, like, I want to go the path to become a GM of a national football team?
Yeah, it's funny. Honestly, I just wanted to find a way to get in and help the team. Like, I played sports through high school. Unfortunately, didn't work out after that. And so when I was in college, I was originally going to be – I loved who my high school football coach was and what he meant to me. And I was like, man, I'm going to go be a high school football coach, run my own program. Maybe I'm good enough. Maybe some small college will want me. But started kind of having, bigger aspirations and tried to work my way into the NFL. I got lucky to start as an intern with the Panthers. But honestly, the first 5-6 years there, I'm just trying to show that I got value. How can I help? Whether it's pick somebody up at the airport, make coffee, like whatever it is, like, anything that it took to help us win, you just feel that team pride. And that's kind of what I wanted. But I worked for a man in Marty Herney who just was constantly giving me more and teaching me. And 5-6 years in, I'm starting to get promoted and work my way up the ranks. At that point, I started really asking him a lot of questions, not necessarily on the spot, but just when it was convenient for him and learning some of the, the path that he took and some of the obstacles he faced and what I needed to do to prepare myself. But at the same time, I also told myself, like, there's 32 of these. The odds of that, like, I'm not going to be crushed if it doesn't happen. And that's why I try to tell people that I talk to, like, hey, like, definitely shoot for the moon, like, but don't feel like you didn't make it. I call it mini breaks, right place, right time. Just work your ass off, be where you're supposed to be, treat people the right way. And I think the sky's the limit if you're willing to do it. Don't chase this for the money either.
When you're working up through the ranks and you're trying to go the path that you've eventually made it to, at one point you have to become the Grim Reaper. Yeah. And a lot of people don't know. Grim Reaper is a guy, it's one of the lowest guys in the totem pole in the scouting department who has to sit outside the locker room. And as guys are going to meetings, they're the ones that says, hey,
cut day.
Coach wants to see you. Yep. Bring your playbook, or the GM wants to see you. What was that first experience like for you, having to tell a grown man, hey, your dream's over?
Dude, it's brutal. Like, I mean, I can remember the days of having to be that guy. You walk through the locker room and the guys are kind of looking at you like, oh,
there he is.
Shit, here comes
Beane. They're all peppering you. The vets who know they're safe are kind of giving you a hard time.
Oh, yeah. Beane, get out of here. They're constantly doing that. But I tell you, the wackiest thing, in 2010, the league was about to go through the lockout. Mm-hmm. And so our staff had, our owner at the time had made a decision that because we're going to lockout, no new hires for the organization. Well, our player engagement director left. So we're in the process of needing one. He was like, we're in the lockout. You're in charge of this. For a year, Marty Herney told me I had to be the player engagement director. And I was still having to get people to cut them. I'm like, man, I'm supposed to be supporting these guys. And I'm also cutting them. Like, it was an awkward deal. It was one of the weirdest times of my life, but it's a good experience. I learned a lot, but at the same time I was like, this is weird.
Having a heart to heart with them one day, and then the next day you're like, hey, remember that conversation?
Hey, bring your playbook.
I told you to keep working. Like, I think you're in a good spot. I just got a call. It ain't good.
Yeah,
you're not good enough.
Just
Sorry.
Work's over. It's done.
Not naming any players, but what's been your like scariest or most vulnerable time where you've had to cut somebody and it didn't go the way you thought it would?
It wasn't scary. I would say when we moved on from Shady McCoy here, he was not thrilled. Let's just say that. It was the shortest cut meeting that I ever had. He wasn't really interested in talking about it, and he gave me a few nice words and said he's out. And at the end of the day, I still respect Shady for what he, for his career, and loved him. And I knew it was an emotional moment for him. And so I understood all that. And I even reached out to him after, it is what it is. But it was an interesting one, to say the least.
It's got to be so tough. I mean, the guys that come in and are rookies, and they're kind of like, they kind of have an idea. Yeah. But the guys that have played for a franchise, help like bring back a franchise, those got to be the hardest ones.
Yeah. No, we went through that last off season we moved on, from about 5 or 6 captains from our team before that have really kind of helped us. Sean and I got here in 2017. This team had not been in the playoffs in 17 straight seasons. And we were kind of, we needed this culture shift. We needed this new dynamic. And so the Jordan Poyers, the Micah Hydes, the Mitch Moore, like so many of these guys were with us to help us build this team and build this culture. But the business starts to get in the way, whether you can't re-sign them, whether you've got to ask for pay cuts that don't work out, or you got to move on. And those were very tough, because you don't want to say goodbye, but you also have to start planning for the next iteration of this Buffalo Bills team. And it's kind of like Josh was younger than all those guys. Yeah. He still was kind of ascending into that leadership role. And now he's, the elder statesman of all the captains.
Mm-hmm. How is it? I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, Will.
How difficult is that, knowing the business, the cap space, all that becomes involved. You're having to have a conversation with these players who have been help build the cloth of what you guys are, whereas you're trying to navigate the value they bring tangibly and intangibly into a locker room, and then also weighing it with the costs of doing business. I'm sure that those are probably tough conversations. How are you, I guess, going about that in your mind when you're in the war room, or you're breaking down the strategy of it all to make those types of hard decisions?
Yeah, I mean, there's some sleepless nights going through that. You see what's coming down the pipe, and you're constantly looking at the cap, and you're seeing where their numbers are. You're also, looking at some of the guys that are coming up for extensions, which we did a lot of extensions here this offseason. So there's constant preparation, and you dread those conversations. They are painful, because in some ways I do myself a disservice. I try to get to know these guys as people, not just as players for this team, but who their families are. Buffalo is a tight area. Our wives do a lot of things, wives, girlfriends, and it's a big support network. And you want to be there, because as you guys know, you've been in the locker room. Life happens to a lot of people in a lot of different facets, and the best way to get through adversity is to surround yourself with people you care about, and they kind of help. We all help each other through the tough times, and so that's hard. At the same time, I know that Terry Pagula has hired me to make the best business decisions for the Buffalo Bills. So you try your best to remove your heart, as hard as that is, and just try and think, with your brain, of how we're going to do this, how you're going to navigate the cap, the cash, and, the ascending players versus the guys that are starting to descend, and just making sure, you've thought it through. Those are some of the longest thought out decisions that you make, knowing, that it's going to pull on your heartstrings.